What's up, people of Earth? I'm Jack, and I'm back for SocioPathos, a channel dedicated to educating everyone on my experience with ASPD, as well as cultivating a discussion around mental health. By the way, some of you mentioned that you enjoyed the energy output I've been exerting in my past few videos, so I'm going to keep up the same hype levels so you are all hopefully more entertained. This is off the cuff, but normally I wouldn't be as emotive generally, but you know, I understand what keeps people interested, so I'm going to do it anyway. So let's just keep going with it, shall we? And today, before we get into your wonderful questions, which I'm very excited to answer as always, we have our topic of today's video, video games. If you're not interested in video games, or at least my extensive but not complete list of them, you've got timestamps in the description for your convenience. Check this out, right? I love all types of media and art forms. Movies, TV shows, YouTube videos, obviously, music, books, graphic novels, painting, photography, live performances, games, sports, my favorite being MMA, by the way, and pretty much everything else you can think of, like culinary arts and so forth. I think appreciating human art is one of the finest pastimes a person can indulge in, and I seriously love many aspects about them all. But, without a doubt, my favorite type of media and art form are video games. Video games are the only art form that both lets you break the laws of physics and reality, as well as fully interact with and manipulate the medium at your leisure within the confines the developer has set. Just like all other fantastic forms of art, they have the ability to tell a fantastic story, but with the added effect of letting you change the outcome or come to conclusions differently and unique to you, and I feel as though games immerse me just a little bit more than other types of media. So, now for the meat of this video's topic, what are my favorite games? Well, I legitimately have too many games I could talk about in detail for a reasonably timed video. So instead of doing a speed run of a bunch of my favorite games throughout my gaming life, I'm going to list a few of my favorites and why, and we'll see if we have any in common to hopefully give you a human connection in some way to someone who has ASPD. So yeah, let's get right into it. These are in no particular order, by the way. I just, whatever came to my mind first, I wrote about. So let's get right into it. First up is Uncharted 2 Among Thieves. In my PlayStation days, this game blew my fucking mind. The graphics were incredible, the gameplay was dynamic with a legitimate multiplayer mode, and the story, characters, and dialogue were all superb. Sadly, I have yet to play Uncharted 4 because I switched over to PC after my PS3 and never got the chance, but it's certainly on my bucket list. Speaking of Naughty Dog games, The Last of Us was amazing, and I don't think I need to say anything else about it. Obviously, Terraria, and even more so Minecraft, carried me through my early teenage years, and those games are incredibly nostalgic for me. I swear that every time I hear the Minecraft album, I get goosebumps without fail. When I did end up seeing the light that is Steam, I immediately fell in love with Team Fortress 2, Left 4 Dead 2, Portal 2, CSGO, and my personal favorite Valve game, Dota 2. Although Valve seems to be unable to count to 3, I'm fine with that as long as Dota 2 is continuously implemented upon and improved, because from my perspective, it's the greatest competitive game yet made. Next is one of the few games I even had a shot at going pro in, Rocket League. I got this game the day of its release, achieved gold in Season 1, and champ or grand champ every season I put time into. It was hilarious watching the general public go from inept toddlers to freestyling monsters in a few years' time. And although I only ever made $5 in tournaments, I still had a blast just playing at a really high level. Great game. After that, you have my 3 favorite fighting games, Smash, Melee of course, Ultra Street Fighter 4, and Tekken 7. In my opinion, Tekken 7 is the best fighting game out right now, but certain indie titles still kick ass to this day. Those would be Rivals of Aether, Lethal League, and a personal favorite meme game of mine, Slap City, baby! Fish Bungin' Boy, yeah! Dude, he's got a galaxy punch that even blows the Falcon Punch out of the water, and I'm saying that as a knee god main myself. Obviously, I wouldn't be a good gamer boy if I hadn't played all of From Software's games, such as Dark Souls 1 through 3, Sekiro, and Bloodborne is obviously on my list of games to play because once again, I have no PS4. One day I'll smite those Eldritch horrors, I swear. So, to keep this list from going on forever, I'm just going to list a few kick-ass games that I respect highly. Hotline Miami, holy fuck, that game is good. The whole Doom franchise, Doom Eternal, was incredible. Katana Zero, super interesting indie title. Mordhau and Chivalry, and also Mountain Blade Warband on top of that. Those are 3 amazing swordplay games. Hyper Light Drifter, nothing needs to be said there. PUBG, China, Gary's Mod, Autism, I'm kidding, I'm sorry, I love Gmod. Rainbow Six Siege, Racism, no, it's one of the best shooters of all time. Warframe, farming, but with space ninjas. Hunt Showdown, it's like, you know, the slowest shooter gameplay you can find on the market, but somehow it remains incredibly potent through the whole game. It's awesome, go try it out if you've never seen it. Hollow Knight, obviously. Cuphead, obviously. Celeste, obviously. Duck Game! Motherfucking, if you've not played Duck Game, get 3 friends, buy Duck Game, and play Duck Game. It's fucking Duck Game. Next up, we have Natural Selection 2, one of the most unique first-person shooters that lets you play as aliens. It's like Left 4 Dead 2 if it were like on the Nostromo in the movie Alien, and it were even cooler, and you have like commanders and everything. It's fucking awesome. Payday 2, because I've always wanted to be a bank robber. Risk of Rain, obviously. Tory Bash is like fighting game time. It's like a... You can't even describe Tory Bash. It's just something completely different. Total War for like those massive war battles. Trackmania for getting the best times and getting smoked by everyone else in the lobby. Undertale because duh. And many, many more. Whew, I really just wanted to get all that off my chest because I love so many games, and I'm sure we can find some common ground among that list that will aid in teaching everyone that a person is not defined by their personality disorder or mental state, but their actions, character, and interests. Also, if you saw a game you really enjoy or didn't see it, first check the description for a much larger list that I initially wrote, and then let me know in the comments, and obviously ask me anything gaming related, questions you've got, because I would love to talk about my interests with anyone, especially you wonderful people. Speaking of questions, you've all been waiting long enough, so let's get right into them. I hope I'm saying this right. Guilherme Farias asked, do you have a flight or fight response? If so, which? In a high-stress, dangerous situation, how would you act? Wow, okay, a tough one right off the bat. I like it. So, it highly depends on the situation I'm in, but in my general experience, both my flight and fight responses are really low overall. I tend to react to things almost comically mildly, and usually have to play up my surprise to not seem odd in the circumstance. In really dangerous or intense situations, I've found that I either react immediately, either fleeing or fighting, or remaining completely calm and almost going into a flow state where I'm hyper aware and it's as if time itself has slowed down around me. For an example of the latter, one time my good friend Jake and I were in an argument and I forgot exactly what I said, but I was egging him on and he got pissed at me for some reason. He got so mad that he actually lost control and charged at me in an attempt to tackle me, I was assuming. In that fraction of a second where I entered flow state, I had to make a few decisions. First was that I either wanted to fight Jake or flee from him. This choice was instantly obvious because although at the moment I was fucking with him and had made him mad, he was still my good friend, so I didn't want to attempt to knock him out or anything offensive. While he was in motion towards me, I came to this conclusion, and with time in my perspective being at a snail's pace, sidestepped and evaded his tackle only for him to fall over from his overextension. In the end, I fled effectively in the moment and didn't cause any physical damage to a friend of mine. To me, that's a clear win and an example of my flow state side of reacting to heightened scenarios. Other times, like in an immediately deadly scenario, I'll act accordingly and either fight or flee for my life, because although I do react more calmly than most people in those situations, I'm still a mortal and death could sweep me off my feet in any moment, so I tend to err on the side of caution. Great question, Mr. Farias, and I hope that was a sufficient answer. Franklin asked, do you practice lucid dreams to go berserk mode sometimes? Wow. Dang, Franklin, very cool question, as I've always been fascinated by lucid dreams. To answer your question, no, but mostly because I have trouble dreaming at all, and when I do, I most certainly don't have enough control in them to openly lucid dream. For those of you who are unaware, lucid dreaming is the act of dreaming and realizing you are within a dream, only to control it and manipulate the space at your will. Super fucking cool. So I have attempted to lucid dream before, but with my lack of a concrete sleep schedule along with my lack of consistent dreams in general, I found it exceedingly difficult to do so. If I was to lucid dream, I'd imagine I'd at least try to go on a murderous rampage, but I don't really feel ill intent towards anyone I haven't met and come to, understand, so I don't just go around attacking people. But if I realized I was in a dream, and I was surrounded by like Nazis or some group of equally evil people, you bet your ass I'd go on a hilarious Deadpool-style gore-filled rampage. I mean, come on, who hasn't dreamt of doing some crazy shit like that? To be honest, if I could lucid dream at will, I'd probably just set up an elaborate drug-filled party, which may or may not transition into an orgy, but because nothing is real, consequences wouldn't exist, and doing bad things is typically really fun. Either that, or I dream I'm living the life I, am in right now, except I'd be financially stable, but that's a little sad and no fun at all, so forget I even said anything. Thank you for the super unique question, Franklin. Good stuff. Gentleman Plays, a returning question asker who I'm very appreciative of, asked, how do you feel about people spreading misinformation about your disorder? Okay, well... Okay, this is tough. So, that's a really good question, my good gentleman. I first want to say that I am not perfect, nor am I a medical professional, nor are all medical professionals perfect. People get things wrong all the time, and even people who are experts in their field don't always have the perfect answers for every question thrown their way. There are a plethora of personality disorders and even mental conditions a person can have. And along with how unique people are and how different any one person's brain can function, it's incredibly hard to pinpoint exactly what a person has 100% reliably. In terms of ASPD, or sociopathy and psychopathy, these personality disorders are not the most well-researched or completely understood and agreed upon in the medical field, and that leads to a really hard time for people deliberating on the internet. Sure, there's the DSM-5 definition of ASPD, which encapsulates sociopaths and psychopaths in one antisocial personality disorder group, but there's so much nuance in how people act and feel that the act of grouping them is almost ridiculous. I, of course, am just another person who has as much of a chance to have a flawed initial view of the subject, but with extensive research you might be able to come to more concrete conclusions on your own. For example, the people who claim you must be 25 to be diagnosed are technically wrong because in some areas of the world the diagnosis can be done even under the age of 18, which I've just learned, but this idea is still valid in some regards because 25 is roughly the age at which your brain is fully developed. This does not mean you can certifiably claim people under 25 can't have ASPD, but it does introduce an interesting question about diagnosis and how much age matters when it comes to clearly defined personality traits exhibited by individuals for extended periods of time at a young age. I am not here to argue with people over the definition of ASPD, sociopathy, or psychopathy, mostly because I'm not a professional, but also because they are fully allowed and inclined to go do further research on their own to answer any questions they may have. Just remember to check your sources and check various sources to see a more complete view of the picture. It does annoy me a tad when people who aren't trained medical professionals try to diagnose other people over the internet with incredibly limited interaction with them and other unreliable narrators, but who am I to stop them? They have the right to free speech even if the information they're sharing isn't 100% correct or even close to being correct. So it annoys me a little bit, but I respect their right to question and talk about it. Thanks for the great question, gentlemen. Okay, so those were a few large answers, so let's get into the lightning round. IMCH had 3 questions and asked, do you feel superior to other people? No, actually, I don't feel superior to anyone innately. I think all humans have equal value, regardless of economic standing, race, ethnicity, or any other ridiculous criteria you could use to judge another person, and solely judge a person based on their actions and beliefs. If they believe some whack job shit like racism, anti-vax, or anti-science, those are some of the few things that will actually make me judge you harshly. Otherwise, if you act like an inconsiderate asshole or go on some dumb power trip and act better than others, I immediately believe you to be lesser than them. Basically, the more humble and kind you are, the less likely I am to judge you like you are the scum of the earth. Don't fuck with other people or the collective knowledge of humanity, and we're cool pretty much always unless you're a serial murderer or rapist. Then you've got some explaining to do before I even consider the idea of trusting you, but I'm pretty sure that's the same as most people. Just don't be a dumbass idiot, and I don't care what you do and won't judge you for really anything you do. We're all human, we're all flawed, and one of the biggest flaws is believing you're better than the rest of us. That line of thought right there is what differentiates us, but not positively for you. So yeah, once again, no, I don't feel superior or judge anyone before I interact with them, but if you do some like fucked up shit or believe some fucked up shit, I will judge you harshly, but I believe that's very standard. However, I do have slight issues with how people judge people on a regular basis, because their criteria is typically really, like, you know, shallow and garbage. Like, I think you should only judge a person based off their character, you know? So, yeah. Hopefully that answered that. Next question from them is, what do you think of death and why do you see it as a positive thing? Well, death is an intrinsically difficult subject for people to grasp. We're so scared of death that we've come up with hundreds of iterations of the afterlife to give us comfort behind the fact that we have no fucking clue what happens after you die. Dying isn't as scary as not knowing what comes after death. The biggest human fear, apart from public speaking and clowns, both of which I never understood, is the unknown. It drives us mad, not knowing something. And when the lack of knowledge is combined with other primal fears, such as the ocean and the dark, it makes for a terrifying experience. So, we've avoided thinking about death by fantasizing about heaven, hell, reincarnation, purgatory, and other human constructs. We just really don't know. I'm not sure if death is a good or a bad thing, but all things die after living, and life as a whole is good, so death must serve some purpose and be good as well if it's a part of life. I don't wish to die soon, or anyone to die for that matter, unless they're actually a garbage human being, but I wouldn't say that I'm afraid of death. I am scared of it, but mostly to not keep living, not of death itself. I presume death won't actually be that bad. Just like before you were born and festering within your mother's womb. There's no worries, no quandaries, just a whole lot of nothing. So, death, in a way, should hypothetically be a peaceful state of existence. Dying, on the other hand, can be terrifying. Burning, drowning, getting stabbed, shot, blown up, and a million other terrifying, painful things could be the cause of your death. And the act of dying seems to be the great worry for me, not the death itself. If I was to cap off this whole death rant, try not to die in a horribly painful way, but also try to live life gaining as much happiness and fulfillment as possible before kicking the bucket. If you're constantly in fear of death, you're probably not living life to the fullest, so don't worry about it too much. Just don't be jumping into a pit of acid and, you know, lighting yourself on fire, unless you're a Buddhist monk, in which it's your right to protest, and that's fucking badass, and it made it onto one of my favorite album arts of all time, and I'm rambling, so yeah, good question. And last question from them is, do you genuinely enjoy compliments? Do you dislike insults and criticism? Just to know if they can trigger you. Well, it's near impossible to trigger me by any normal means, and you'll have to search for my nerve of hating general stupidity to really tick me off. I do enjoy compliments, of course, but I don't put too much weight into them or insults for that matter. I actually like criticism a lot as long as it's constructive, and love hearing about what I can improve upon in general. I always look to be the best I can be at any given thing, and well-intentioned criticism helps that process immensely. So I tend to appreciate it more than anything. I think not taking criticism well is a dumb trait to have, as you actively diminish your outside resources of different perspectives and suggestions. I also like insults as long as they can make me laugh, otherwise they're just a waste of words. You can do any of these three to me, I really wouldn't mind either way. But try not to insult people for no fucking reason, that's just you being an asshole, so why do that, you know? Insult them for a reason, give them constructive criticism, and that will go a much longer way than just saying, haha, fuck you, blah, blah, blah. Like, you're worthless if you do that. Make me laugh, you gain a point. Teach me something, you gain 10. So that's my perspective on that. Definitely criticize me, definitely insult me if you want to, and compliment me, sure. I don't give a fuck. I'm confident enough on my own, but you can compliment me, sure. That's cool. Those were some interesting questions. IMCH, so thank you and good stuff. Quarantine Videos asked, do you think depression could become sociopathy? No, I don't think it can. You can become depressed and begin to exert sociopathic traits, but you won't magically gain a personality disorder from falling into a deep depression. You can, however, have traumatic events that lead to the development of ASPD, but that's usually only in extreme cases and isn't the main way a person develops the disorder. It's usually majority genetics and sometimes affected by your environment, but it is hypothetically possible. If you're depressed, however, you're probably not going to gain ASPD, so no worries, buddy. Thanks for the question. Creator has 2 questions and asked, do you think a high-functioning psychopath could be more dangerous in a way than a low-functioning psychopath due to higher manipulation and deceiving skills? Yes, absolutely. Anyone with ASPD can be dangerous to an extent, and the only difference is high-functioning people have a more acute ability to decide when to bust out the total robot Terminator mode, so they could hypothetically be much more dangerous. However, usually high-functioning people are more likely to skid under the radar for their own benefit and tend not to do drastic things, so in general, lower-functioning people will be more spontaneously dangerous. Though, I actually do think high-functioning sociopaths and psychopaths can be more dangerous because we can easily get into positions of either power or circumstance that allows for more devastating things to be done. Basically, the smarter or dumber you are as someone with ASPD, the more of an ability to be dangerous you have, just in different ways. So yes, they 100% can be more dangerous depending on the situation. And their second question is there anything you are truly afraid of? Yes. 2 answers, in fact. The vast, deep ocean, because we're bipedal mammals and that's simply not our environment, and people, because I know what I'm capable of and am very aware of what anyone else can do at any given moment. Take this 1 second and think about what you are. You are the culmination of millions of years of evolution, and out of all the animals on Earth, you are without a doubt the apex predator. You are a monster, and the only thing holding you back is your mind, the thing giving you the incredible power in the first place apart from our opposable thumbs. So just know, if you ever feel weak or lowly, that you have an immense amount of untapped destructive potential within you, and you are the one strong enough to keep yourself in check. You hold all the power, and that's what makes people terrifying to me. I'm not afraid of anyone and treat everyone with the same amount of respect, but I am in a sense afraid of everyone. People are fucked up, but are incredibly creative and charitable at the same time. They're the ultimate wildcard animals, and in a sense, they terrify me. But that doesn't stop me from interacting with and loving the company of people, because they are incredibly interesting to observe, and my fear will never trump my curiosity about them. Awesome questions, creator. Love them. Thank you. Olivier Gautreau asked, do you control your emotional attachments? For example, can you simply choose not to feel attached to someone, or do you have no influence over this? Yes, I do, to an extreme extent. I have to actively decide to become emotionally invested in anything, including people. But because it's been a process I've had to go through constantly throughout my life, it's not hard for me to make or change these attachments on a whim. Usually, I use it to become more invested in people to more easily connect with them, but if they fuck with me or fuck me over negatively in some way, I can cut my attachment to them immediately without fail, even family members. It's kind of a blessing in disguise, as I never waste brain space on people I don't actively want to care about, and I've always found it odd when people are overly attached to someone else and can't operate normally without them. Thank you, and great question, Olivier. Alright, that's been a bunch of questions, so I'll leave it there for today, but as a general overall answer to a lot of people who are asking similar questions, If you're worried about maybe having ASPD or exerting ASPD-like qualities, don't be. First off, you can have ASPD and still be a highly beneficial and successful member of society, and second, you don't need to get yourself diagnosed if it'll negatively affect your relationships. I am very lucky that my family and friends are very, nice and cordial about it, and am able to be open about my personality with everyone by my own design. If that's not the case for you and your diagnosis can negatively impact your life, don't worry about it, just straight up forget about it. If you really have ASPD, it won't be hard for you at all, and you can continue living the exact same as before unless it's leading you to do bad things, in which case, that's up to you, and your personality disorder is not an excuse to do so. Just keep living, keep your head up, and don't worry so much, people. We're all going to die, so just live your life as best you can and try not to spend the majority of it worrying about things you can't change or control. Also, as a side note, to all the people asking questions, I'm going to be answering questions mainly from my most recent videos out of convenience and some necessity, so try to ask them in the most recent videos comment section. Otherwise, there's a higher chance I won't get around to answering it simply because of circumstance. I hope you all get where I'm coming from, but I'll try to look back to my old videos to see if there's any amazing lurking questions I still have yet to answer. For now though, try your best and I'll try mine, because I think that's a good middle ground. Also, if you don't consider the massive list of games in the beginning to be a bonus feature, I've got a few at the end here to hold you over. I initially planned on pointing out a few more of my favorite games, but instead, due to circumstance, I want to switch it up and talk about stand-up comedians.
End round bonus feature. Begin!
First up is James Acaster's Repertoire on Netflix. Super funny guy, very unique style, and kept me laughing or giggling to myself throughout the entire 3 shows, so clearly he deserves a spot here. Second is the legend himself, and arguably the best comedian of all time, Dave Chappelle, and all his work, because goddamn if he isn't hilarious. Most of his work can be found on Netflix, but don't forget he's got so many bits you can find on YouTube that are nearly, if not as funny as his curated shows. Obviously check his work out if you haven't seen it before. And third is a personal favorite of mine, Norm Macdonald, who's one of the oddest and most intelligent funny men in the world, and his style is simply fantastic. Go check out any of his stuff on Netflix, especially some of his more popular YouTube clips after you've got a feel for him, because God, that moth bit, fucking god tier. That guy is too funny, man. Lastly, special mentions to Joe Rogan, Tom Segura, Bert Kreischer, Bill Burr, Louis C.K., Anthony Jeselnik, Daniel Tosh, and many, many others, because they keep us laughing and thinking, which are 2 easy ways to help humanity. In this fucking crazy time of police brutality, civil unrest, and the unlawful intrusion into our right to protest, sometimes all we need is a way to laugh again. For real, guys, especially as an American, stay safe out there in this wild world we all live in. This has been Jack with SocioPathos, signing off. Peace. Alright, and my god, that's a 50-minute recording for these voice lines, so I hope you guys appreciate it. Thank you all for the awesome questions. They just keep getting better and better, so thank you all so much for those. Once again, try to keep them to the newest videos so I have a higher chance of seeing it and putting it in the next video. And yeah, I love you all. I hope you all stay safe out there. It's getting fucking incredibly dangerous. And just, like, feel free to protest. I totally support your right to protest. But be careful out there, guys. Like, especially if you're a person of color, it is fucked out there. And you gotta be careful. So, I'm praying for you in my own way. And I hope everyone else is too. I hope, we can move past all this police brutality bullshit and hopefully reform, a lot of things in a positive way, because right now this shit is not working out. So that's been on my mind. If you check any, websites like Reddit or something, that's all you see is just posts about this terrible shit. And then you have some of those few videos of peaceful protesters stopping people from looting and rioting, which I believe is awesome. So hats off to those people. They're heroes on top of heroes on top of heroes. So, don't just look at, people looting and rioting and think, oh, these protesters are, one word I heard was animals, which is just ridiculous. They're just angry. Who cares about property damage unless it's a local business, in which, fuck you, why are you doing that? But, fuck these mega corporations. Let them get raided and pillaged. I don't give a shit about them. You know, they're billion-dollar corporations. No one cares about them. They don't care about the people. What you should care about is the fact that police are just murdering people for being black. How ridiculous is that? It's fucking stupid, and I hate stupidity, and you know that. So, I don't know. I don't want to rant too long. I'm not a very political person in general, but I think this goes past politics. This is becoming, like, you know, closer and closer to fascism, which is exactly what I don't want to have happen, because duh, what are you, stupid? You want a fucking police state in this bitch? Come on, that's fucking ridiculous. So, I don't know, so much is on my mind right now. There's so much crap going on. But I hope those comedians are good and they can make you laugh in this time of not very funny things going on. And I hope we can connect on some of those video games that I listed. And if you didn't see one you liked, make sure to check those comments out, or my description out rather, because they're all on there too. So yeah, I don't want to go on too long. I love that I could just talk to you guys like this in a real manner where I don't have anything else scripted and I can just talk to you guys. I really appreciate it. It's on top of making the videos themselves, it's an amazing outlet for me. So thank you all from the bottom of my heart. Like, I seriously love you guys. And to everyone who's subscribed, you guys you make me, happy to wake up every day, for real. Like, you guys are making my life have that much more meaning to it. So I can't even thank you enough in words. So I'm just going to keep making videos and trying to up my content levels so I can pay it back to you guys. So thank you all so much. I love you all. Stay safe. Fight for freedom. Fight for everyone. Not just yourself. Fight for everyone. We are all the same race. We're the human race. So, yeah. That's it. All right. Love you guys. Peace. And see you next time on SocioPathos. All right. Time to edit. Woo!